name's Dave Wolfe, and basically I'm a sugar addict in long-term recovery. So I really wanted to talk about that a little bit, but I wanted to sort of tell you a little bit about what got me here. So my mom was in food addiction recovery for as long as I can remember. I remember as a little kid, like going to meetings with her, and she was working on herself, and I didn't really understand what was going on, but none of that really made sense until it made sense. And that took me, I was about probably in my late 20s, early 30s. So, but as a kid, I would get home from school, I'd run downstairs, I'd grab like 5 packs of fruit snacks, I'd eat them all, I'd had the wrappers, and I did that for years. I didn't really understand what I was doing until I understood what I was doing, right? Then for a long time, my cravings were quiet because I was actually put on stimulant medication for ADHD, which meant that it suppressed my appetite a lot. So I think I'm one of these people that's a sugar addict, food addict, but never really gained weight because my appetite was always suppressed and I have a pretty fast metabolism. I think that it's very challenging for men to face this issue for a lot of reasons. And I think one of them is that it's become socially normalized. And we hear things like the dad bod. And the other thing is that men, I don't think they have the same impact to the level of consequences that a lot of the women have. To be completely honest with you, 95% of the people that I work with are women, right? And 5% are men. So if that doesn't tell you something, I think it's a very jarring data point, right? So 1 out of 100 of the people that come into our area to get help with sugar addiction are male. And so I don't think it's because sugar addiction is more pervasive among females. It seems to be pretty much a 50-50 split. It's just that the consequences are perceived much differently. And the other thing I think, which is really, really huge, is that men have a really, really hard time asking for help. Like, we'll even have a hard time going to a gas station and asking for directions. Like, it's part of who we are, right? We're driven by this ego, and there's this sense of pride, and I get it because I'm a guy, but in order to get into recovery, we need to learn how to ask for help. So I really want to sort of tap into some of the things you can do on your own that can kind of help you bring you to that point where you're ready to do that. So one of the things that I was asked really was to define what health was, right? And so I'll use sort of like a quadrant of paradigm that we use for recovery. And one of the things we understand about addiction is it's a biopsychosocial spiritual illness. So what that means is it affects us biologically, it affects my life. It affects me socially, how I interact with other people. It affects me psychologically or mentally. It affects my thoughts. It affects my moods, right? And it affects me spiritually, sort of how I interact with others, but also how I interact with the world around me or the universe or however you want to frame it. So I like to look at health through that paradigm. Like my health isn't just my body, and it's not just my spirit. It includes my relationships. Are my relationships healthy? Do they fundamentally help me grow? Do they hold me back? Do they push me forward? Right. And then mentally, like my mental health, my emotional health, like my well-being. I use the term a lot with men, and I call them pirates. And what pirates are like, they're external and they're internal, meaning they come from the outside and they come from the inside. And so what a pirate is it's a thought that basically brings you down a peg from where you want to be, so to speak. It sort of, attacks you. It comes in and it sieges your mind. And it could be coming from a tough interaction that you have with your 5-year-old. It could be coming from your wife. It could be coming from an automatic negative thought. So I think that oftentimes our mindset is under attack, and we just let it come in. And then what happens is we get sidetracked away from where we want to go and who we want to be. So I think it's so important, A, that we learn how to identify what our pirates are and where they come from, and B, what we can do about them. So we literally have to identify them and address them independently. What I mean is each one we have to address. So, you know, I have a 3-year-old. She's 3, right? She's a toddler. A lot of my pirates come from my 3-year-old, right? The no, I don't want us. I don't want to take a nap. I need to play 10 more minutes, whatever it is. Sometimes these things, they get to me, and I need to be able to address them so I don't hijack her, right? Because it's my response to the information that's harming my health more than my child is harming my health, right? So I think in terms of men and recovery and change, we have to sort of approach it from a little bit of a different angle. I think men have vanity, but I think it's different. So, our response and also the social norms that have been portrayed by our culture for men are different. Like, I think it's a lot more normal. There's a lot less stigma around a dad being overweight as opposed to a mom being overweight. So I think there's less sort of push from that angle. So what I really wanted to do is talk a bit about mindset, because I feel like we run this 18-week program. And when we started it, it was that we started off with addiction education, and then we taught about mindset. But then what we realized, like, no, we need to address mindset first. It's so important that we get ourselves in the right frame of mind, that we can start to put these things together and start to apply these things to our lives, right? So I'm going to teach you a couple of techniques that I think can make a big difference for you and for your life. And really what they do is they compartmentalize. Whether it's one of my favorite tools is a timer. Right? Focus is like our least, it's our most limited resource. So anything that we can do to really focus on what we really want to do is helpful. So I think a timer is a really huge tool. And then one of the other things is we can compartmentalize our days into quarters, and especially with food addiction, this is super helpful, right? So like first quarters until 9 a.m., second quarters from around 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., third quarters from like 1 to 7, and then fourth quarters from 7 till you go to bed. And so basically what we're asking you to do is to just focus on the quarter you're in. You just focus on that time span that you're inside of right now. Because what happens is oftentimes you screw up in the first quarter, and then you throw away the second, the third, and the fourth quarter. Like, this is very common for human beings, never mind people that identify with the concept of addiction. So, but that's not how it works in sports. Like in America, right, we have football and, American football. And the quarterback doesn't just say, well, we're down 7 points in the first quarter, let's just go home. That's not what happens, right? They refocus, they re-energize. And what do you need to do to refocus and re-energize? It's going to be different for everybody. For me, I go back to my timer. I might make a commitment to someone that knows kind of what I'm doing, what I'm going through. I might reach out to my community. I might do anything that's going to get me back on track for the next quarter. It's so important. The other thing is that the things that you want to work towards, the things that you tell people that you're doing, you're much more likely to do, because there's a completely different level of commitment. I think that's the community piece. And we're talking about addiction and we talk about recovery, like community is foundational. That social part of that quadrant is huge. But then the other thing is, I think it's Pearson's law is things that are measured improved, and things that are measured and reported improve immensely. So finding some way where you can sort of keep track of what you're working on and the results that you're getting. Right. And the other thing is, and this is actually not even mine, this comes from Jordan Peterson. He came up with this thing called a stupid plan. And so what a stupid plan is a really, really, really simple plan that you put in place that's measurable, that you can use to get you from point A to point B. And so I think, especially me as a guy, like, I think my action plans need to be simple. I need to keep them bare bones, and I need to only keep what works and get rid of what doesn't. That's the exact point of a stupid plan. So basically, let's say your goal is to get through 24 hours without sugar. That's your goal. So you ask yourself, what are like the 2 things I definitely know are going to help me to get there? And then you make sure that they're specific enough that you know that you've done them. And then what you do is you get to the end of the day and you look back at your plan of your 2 things and you say, did they specifically succeed or did they specifically fail? Right? And then you know, if they succeeded, you keep them, and if they failed, you pitch them and you replace them with something else. And then so each day or each week, you go through and you adapt your plan. So the point is you don't make the plan any stupider than it has to be, right? You use your insight to sort of guide your plan, but it should really be focused on exactly where you want to go. See, I think a lot of people start focusing on things that they think are good and helpful, but they're not important. So by focusing on the things that are important for you, I think it can make a really huge difference in terms of your ability to get to where you want to go. So one of the things we talk about in building recovery is that abstinence, which is the basically the removal of the things that are causing our cravings, as sort of the ticket into the show. And then the recovery is like the show, right? The play, the event that you went to. So you need a ticket to get to the show. But it's a hard ticket, and we understand that it's a hard ticket. So getting the support that you need is so important. And again, we go back to the fact that we don't like to ask for help. I think that asking for help is a superpower, and kind of starting to look at it through the lens that I'm not just asking for help, I'm giving someone else the opportunity to help me. Because I think that can stand in the way for a lot of people, especially men, right? Like, I don't want to ask for help. I feel weak when I ask for help. But what I learned was, and this kind of goes back to the stupid plan, when I ask for help, I get results. I get really, really good results. Because I'm not just doing it for myself, I'm doing it for someone else. There's more energy behind the decision. It's hard for me to ask for help, so I've already done something hard. So one of the sayings we use a lot is like, we do hard things. And you've all done hard things. I mean, this is just another one of the hard things that you're going to do as you go to get closer to improving your relationship with your body, your relationship with your spirit, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with everyone that's around you. And those are all the benefits of recovery. So I think really getting ourselves into the right frame of mind, getting ourselves into what I call a growth mindset and not a fixed mindset, where we can start to turn obstacles into like things that end up enhancing our growth. So like Ryan Holiday has that book, I think it's called The Obstacle is the Way. And it's about how the things that really are going to make you grow are going to be the hard things that you have to face, right? And trust me, they'll find you. The thing that's next for you on your journey is just going to fall into your path, and you're going to have to maneuver your way around it or over it. That's just how life works. And you're going to, and if you miss it, don't worry, it's coming again. So if you miss the lesson, I guarantee you'll face it again, probably pretty soon in a bigger way, so that you can get the importance of what's next for you. And identify it as just through like a basic frustration meter. Like one of the things we use is it's called a stress temp. And what a stress temp is like, when you go into the room and you go to do work, like you want to do inner work, you take your temperature, and like 0 is asleep and 10 is like nuclear reactor stress. So when your stress level is like less than a 3, like you're really dumpy, or like you're jazzed, like you're really frizzled, it's really hard to do work in either like 0 to 3 or like 8 to 10. So kind of trusting your meter, but feeling when you get into those other spaces, like they're really, really tired, languid, and then also they're really, really like jazzed up, energized, like, I'm anxious, what are the thoughts that are coming in, right? And what are the thoughts that make you uncomfortable? Like For me, it's like I get what I call crunchy and irritable. So that's when I know pirates are sort of coming, because that's when I'm not on my guard. I'm weak, I'm tired, I'm stressed out, I'm overwhelmed. And then all I do is I write them down, right? And we have this really cool tool. It's like a brain rewiring tool, but it's so simple. It's these two parts. You take a piece of paper, you fold it in half, right? And then you would write on the left what the pirate told you. And then right next to it on the right, you would just write down like a rebuttal. Like, what's your rebuttal? What's your response? So in the addiction, well, we call it blue dog, red dog. And the red dog is a disease, right? It says, you're not worth it. You're stupid. You can't do this. This is a waste of your time. And then you have the blue dog respond. And the blue dog is your recovery. It's just like, I did it yesterday. I could do it today. Or the red dog might just, you're having a really bad day. You should have something with sugar in it, Dave. And the blue dog might be like, that's a great idea, but not today. So just working on improving that part of the brain. So just to identify them, when you start to feel funny, like if you're like icky, just write it down and make a list. And then what you can do at the end of the day, you can keep a little notepad in your pocket, if you have a pocket in your shirt like I do. And then at the end of the day, you write your rebuttals, and you're really retraining your brain. You're training your brain how to think when that thought comes in. But the reality is that like the red dog will morph, your pirates will morph. So their job is to take you down, right? So, and they're very, very persistent. So, and they're very willing to do whatever it has to do to kind of slow down your progress. So I think it's important to understand that even if you narrow down your top 5 patterns, new ones will come up. And that's okay. Again, the obstacle is the way. As the new ones come up, you'll be able to sort through them and deal with them if you're honest about addressing them. And so I think that's really cool. And the other thing is, as a male, I think we have a tendency to vent less because I think we feel like we're putting ourselves out. So here's one of the crazy things that I do when I start to get like really stressed and like a little mad and irritable is I go into a bathroom and I grab a towel and I shut the door and I just yell into the towel, like, to get my frustration out. And it sounds crazy, but it enables us to vent steam. And I think for men, until we have practice, it's a little difficult for us to really talk about what's going on and what our issues are. So I think having a way to just kind of pull the steam back down, to de-escalate pretty quickly, can be helpful. Will that work for everybody? Absolutely not. But it works for me, and no one knows about it. I'm muffled. They can't even hear me. But it enables me to just kind of calm down when the pirates come in hard, and I'm just like, I'm hearing it. It's coming from my kids, it's coming from my partner, it's coming from my work, and I'm feeling like I'm going to lose it. I'd rather lose it like that in a controlled way, so no one else has to experience it, as opposed to me just like it coming out sideways out of my neck and affecting a bunch of people, because it will affect other people. Thing that we need is to quit. We need to quit being a quitter, right? Like, so we need to just like keep going. I think that hopelessness is a lie. I think that you can definitely do this. You definitely might need a little support along the way. So just really practice 2 things, okay? Practice saying no to things that harm you, and practice saying yes to asking for help. And I think if you do those 2 things, you will have remarkable forward results.